Hey guys, Liam here again. In this video I'm going to be showing you the Sega Master System, which was Sega's alternative to the Nintendo NES. It was their 8-bit console and it was released around the same time in the mid-80s. So here we go, hope you enjoy it. Okay guys, now this is the Sega Master System. Now I would actually have to point out that this is the Sega Master System 1. It wasn't originally called the Sega Master System 1, but a lot of people know it by that name because a little while later it did release a second version of this console, which was just a slimmer, more compact version of the same thing, but it did exactly the same thing anyway. That was known as, quite unimaginatively, the Sega Master System 2. Now, something I will be covering in a future video is that later on as well, Nintendo did actually create a smaller, more compact version of the NES as well, but that was later on in its lifespan, whereas the Sega Master System didn't really wait that long. They didn't wait till the end of its life before they released their second model. But since they do exactly the same thing, I thought it was only really worth showing the one console. This is the original one after all, so if I have to choose between one of the two to show, then this is definitely the one to go with. Now, something that does stand out between the NES and the Sega Master System is that, unlike the NES, the Sega Master System came with built-in games. Now, the NES never came with built-in games, and depending on whether you got the Sega Master System 1 or the Sega Master System 2, they came with different built-in games. And I will show you those games now very quickly by showing you the box. So here we go. There it is. This is the box that comes with the Sega Master System. And yes, it does have a gun on there. Now, I did state in an earlier video that I wouldn't be showing any accessories that come with these things because I wanted to save those for a future video. But I will briefly show the Zapper gun that comes with the Sega Master System, purely because it came with it. It wasn't something that you had to buy like as an add-on. So that's the box, and as you can see from it, came with two games. One that you would use the gun for, Safari Hunt, which was, I'll be honest, I would call it an inferior version of the NES Duck Hunt, and Hang On, which was a motorcycle game. And they came built into it, so even if you had no games at all, then you could still play it. Right, I'll leave the box up there in fact. This is the Sega Master System controller. Very, very similar to the NES. But I mean, if it's simple and it worked, so why change it anyway? In most games, your jump button, your run button or your power button, and just your simple controller. Now this is the input, exactly the same as the Sega Mega Drive and Atari consoles, Atari 2600 that is, which would just go in the front here. There we are. And your simple basic things, your power button, your reset button, and yes, a pause button. Isn't used that much, to be fair, because you did get a pause button on the controller on the NES, but it was actually on the system, on the Master System. Your dust flap, of course, same with the NES, or any other decent console come with a dust flap. Excuse me, Atari Jaguar, I know you didn't and I still like you, but you should have come with a dust flap. Right, that's the console itself. It's a nice looking console. Sega Master System 2 was just a smaller version of it, like we say, and just had a different built-in game. The one that I had came with Alex Kidd built in, but I know there were some models of the Sega Master System 2 that came with Sonic built in. And with exactly the same input, here it is, Sega Master System light gun. Works in exactly the same way as the NES light gun does as well, and would be used for Safari Hunt, which come with it, and a number of other games that obviously you would get with, or you could buy separately, I should say. You wouldn't get the games with it, but that's it. One thing I would say that is better though than the NES is that it is coloured black, and it wasn't coloured white and orange or white and grey like the NES I just think it looks more like a gun with it being in black, but these days with gun laws and things like that, I don't think they get away with making them black anymore. In fact, the later NES-like guns came with orange on them, and the original ones came with grey, and they changed it to orange so that it would look less and less like a gun. You probably noticed to the right of the screen here, we've also got some games. This is just a small amount of games I've decided to just grab out just to put on the table, show you what the cartridges look like. Now, one thing that is really, really good about the Sega Master System, and did obviously go on as well to the Mega Drive, is the game's cases. At the time, computer game cases came in cardboard boxes, which were easy to tear, and that's why you'll find these days, especially if you look on places like eBay, it's easier to find Mega Drive and Master System games with full cases than it is for things like NES and Super Nintendo, and even Atari Jaguar and Atari 2600, etc. And the reason for that was because they were just old cardboard cases. People found that they tore easy, they got lost easy. With these though, even though yes, they have obviously got the paper cover inside the plastic, but the actual case itself is plastic. And all computer games, well, video games, have followed in this same way since. You find even up today, when you get like PlayStation 3 games, Xbox 360 games, they're all different, but still plastic cases like these. This is something that's stuck, and it is the better way. I mean, it's a shame that Nintendo didn't bring out, or even Atari didn't bring out their games in cases like these, because they do last a lot longer, and you will find it easier to find games when they come in cases like this. Right, to show you the cartridge itself, I'm really fond of this game, by the way, Pro Wrestling. That's one of the reasons why I pulled this game out. These are some of my favourites. This is why these were chosen. But I'll just grab Pro Wrestling first of all. Unfortunately, yes, I have lost the manual with this one, sadly, but never mind. Now, the cartridges themselves are a lot smaller than NES cartridges. Now, if you actually open up an NES cartridge, you'll find that the cartridge body of it is actually a lot bigger than the circuit board inside anyway. I don't know why NES cartridges were made like that, because the cartridges are bigger than they need to be on the NES. Whereas these ones aren't. Nice small size. Obviously encompasses there the cartridge inside the case. And they're all exactly the same. Open this to show you. There we are. All the games are exactly the same as that. Right, so same as you'd expect with most video game cartridges. Slides in on the top. Turn it on. And you're done. Now if you don't have any games in at all and turn this on, then you get the choice of playing one of these two games. If you put the cartridge in, then it'll play that game. Moving on to the back. Very, very simple inputs. You've got your power there, your AC adapter, your RF out, and your AV out. The AV out is the one that I use. I do still have the original switch box that come with the Sega Master System, but what's the point in connecting via RF if you can connect via AV? It's just easier. Anyone who connects via AV instead of RF will know anyway. Most people these days will only connect via RF if they absolutely have to. There we go. Now, again, I've mentioned it in previous videos, the NES is still my favourite video game console of all time, but this was a good console as well. The graphics were very similar, but it didn't seem to last as long as the NES, because the NES was still fully available and there was no Super Nintendo by the time the Mega Drive, which over in North America is also known as the Genesis. So a lot of people will have found back in the day of the NES that they had the Mega Drive instead of the Master System. A lot of people did have the Master System, but the Mega Drive has still been more well known in terms of Sega than the Master System is, whereas obviously those who had an NES will always remember the NES. But it was a good console for its time. It was just replaced by the Mega Drive, again known as the Genesis, long before it probably needed to be. But that's down to Sega. I can't really say anything bad about them because they brought out some cracking consoles. It's just a shame they've stopped making their own consoles now. But that's something that I'm going to save for another video. So there we go. Hope you like the Sega Master System. If you do like these videos, of course, please do support the show by subscribing, rating, commenting. I appreciate any feedback that you do have to give. And thanks very much for watching. Take care now. Bye.